Y'all, and welcome to the Max Life. So I currently just finished a video for y'all and published that. Just one of the things I had to do today. Sometimes y'all don't get to hear us talk about like the backside of stuff, like sitting down and doing all the things for videos. So I just finished that. A couple of things that I needed to do in the kitchen today. One was, so all of the leftover chicken bones, chicken skin, chicken fat, all of that, I always use that leftover, put it in a crock pot, fill it up with water. This ended up giving me a half a gallon of chicken broth. It's still got all the seasonings and stuff in there, which we don't mind. That usually goes into making soups. But in my recent cases, what has been happening to my chicken broth? Would somebody like to give a confession time? What's been happening to my chicken broth? Would you like to confess?
I've been drinking a bit more.
So Aiden has been in this chicken broth kick. So now when I make any chicken broth, instead of putting it up in the freezer to pull out for soups, sometimes I do potato soup. I like to do a creamy chicken soup. The different things that I make that require chicken broth, chicken and dumplings, I've had someone stealing it, so I'm probably going to be pretty behind on chicken broth, which is not really that bad of a thing that he's drinking the chicken broth because it is so healthy. But it definitely does put a damper on my stock. Okay, the other thing I need to do today is kombucha. I already have the kombucha laid out. You guys saw me talking a little bit about all of the kombucha things that I have done. Really in the years past, I have done a lot of kombucha, but I opened it up, I had put it in the cabinet and let it sit there for a couple of months, which the SCOBY was still fine, but the problem is that gnats had somehow gotten under my rubber band, and I had seen evidence of gnats over in my kombucha. Now you see my SCOBY in there. I ended up trying. Now I knew that you were not supposed to do this, okay? But when I went to our Whole Foods, which is an hour north of us, they did not have regular unflavored kombucha. So I got just a kombucha that said live kombucha and made my tea and poured it over in there, and it ended up molding. So lesson learned. It was only $5. I didn't want to have to buy a SCOBY and from somebody else. I really wanted to just make my own. It is price-wise, it's not but a couple of dollars difference. It was just waiting on it to be shipped. It was really my biggest thing. We were already in Jackson. I said, hey, I have gnats in mine. Let me just grab a bottle and try it. But it did mold. I don't know the scientific evidence behind why having one that already has flavors or something in it, but regardless, whatever, I did end up buying just a SCOBY off of Amazon, putting my tea over in there, and it is just absolutely beautiful. The kids have really been drinking on them. I have gotten the carbonation back down perfect with this, and we really like the pineapple flavor. So that is some of the things that I'm doing today as well. You saw my shorts. Now I'm trying to do a lot of shorts because when I post videos, there's a whole lot that goes into filming, thinking through what I'm doing for the day. Of course, then they have to be edited, uploaded. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes into a video, like what I'm recording right now. And I don't use my phone because the quality of the videos, in my opinion, are just not as good. So I try not to use my phone unless I'm just doing like some shorts and stuff to show y'all kind of what I'm doing throughout the day. So I have on the very top some microgreens going. The kids don't eat a whole lot of those. I will from time to time, and Colby really likes them too. So I have, of course, you see it's covered up. It needs to be in the dark. So they're still in the first stages. These were the first sets that I did along with one of these. I think the one that's in the middle, and then I've added a couple more trays. And then of course you see I added more trays on the bottom, the middle. And let me tell you the really cool thing that I did. And I just want to just grab these out and just show y'all this. So again, here's another one of those teachable moments. Now, my orange tree that I actually bought from a local nursery several years ago. The first couple of years, it did not do diddly squat. I can actually remember calling the owner like 2 years after I had gotten it and was like, look, there's these little blooms. They come on and then they die off. Like, what am I doing wrong? Can you walk me through what I'm doing? And she was like, well, I'm just not sure. So I was like, the tree's still growing. I'm just going to leave it in this pot and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And hopefully one day we will get actually some fruit off the tree. So that's exactly what I did. And last spring, I took February 1st of March, and in that time, and I took everything that I had basically and did a whole round of fertilizing everything. Now, not with the synthetic fertilizers, which a lot of people's minds go to. You know how we are about our fertilizers. So the natural things that we use, I did throw in some fish emulsion, bone meal, along with all the stuff that we have here, and just made one big week of just fertilizing everything. And after I did that, my fruit trees that I keep in pots produced better all the way around. My key limes, oranges, lemons. I do have a new baby lemon tree which put off really, really well, but it's not really old enough. It's pretty new still to me. So, but anyway, long story short, so my orange trees. Also, muscadines. I got a pretty good bit of muscadines this year as well. And kumquat. So my kumquat tree has been putting off like crazy too. I have one tree that produces, they're a little bit smaller and they're full yellow. They almost look like mini lemons, and they are a little bit more bitter. And then I found one actually at Whole Foods in Jackson that has a little bit of it's a different variety. The look is a little bit different, and y'all, they are so sweet, which I actually really like those. So this is what I did. This season, I kept all of those seeds, and I did what's called cold stratification. I can tell you to go look it up and read about it, but the process is pretty simple. There are some seeds that have to go through what's called like a chill time. The big fancy word for it is cold stratification. And you basically just have to take the seeds, apple seeds is another one, mostly it's your fruits. And they have to go through a chill time. So it's just the way God designed it. So like if an apple falls off the tree, it sits there all winter. Then it will start to sprout during the spring of the next year, but it has to sit during that chill time outside when it's cold. So another way that you can do that, especially here in the South, if you're like me in zone AB, or even closer down into like your Florida area, you really don't get enough chill time. So a way to trick the seeds is to take them, I actually put all of my seeds in kind of like a damp paper towel, rolled it up, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put them all in the freezer. So I basically just tricked my seeds. Instead of leaving them outside, you can put them in the refrigerator too. I just put mine in the freezer. So I have pulled all of those out. I have gotten all of those planted. And y'all, I'm really excited to see if I can do this. I have done it with pear trees before at a local around here who had gifted us some pears. I took a lot of the seeds out, literally did the same process with cold stratification, pulled them out, kept the seeds really, really wet, dropped them down into some soil, and they sprouted, and I had more pear trees than I knew what to do with. I have two that are right out here in my kitchen garden. I put them in two spots. They are probably 10 feet tall now. They're still what I consider babies. Probably will still not produce pears again until the next year or two. But my goal has been, with all of the things that I have tried to plant in our yard, is finding things that grow well in our zone. Raspberries is one of those that just don't grow well here. Apples is one of those things that just doesn't grow well here. We do not have enough cold time in our zone for some things to grow well, especially when it comes to fruits. So all of the seeds that I have right here that I kept and I put through cold stratification, are things that I've already grown. Now, here is something else. I have not ever tried this before. Now, we did take some peaches and threw some seeds out randomly. Actually found one when we were digging the potatoes, digging spots to put the potatoes. I found one of the seeds and I said, well, 2 planted and some didn't. Colby said that we threw the peaches seeds and all out there. I don't remember doing that, but I am an old fart, so yes, that's that. But again, back with the peaches, we have a pretty good zone for growing peaches here. A lot of the problem here tends to fall with disease and bugs. But I did have a friend that lives about 15 minutes north of me, and her peach tree produced wonderfully this past year. Now, she said that the thing that they've always run into is their tree would bloom, it would be flowers, beautiful. A cold snap would come between when her tree would bloom and before Easter, and it would kill all of her blooms. So they put a sprinkler on it last year. They are a good bit older than Colby and myself, but regardless, I love the knowledge sharing. The sprinkler trick worked. In my mind, if you put a sprinkler on a tree and it gets wet and then it gets really, really cold, I'm thinking it's gonna freeze everything, but it actually doesn't. It actually works. So I bought a case of peaches from her last year because she just could not put up all the ones that she had. The peach seeds have been in the freezer since last year. I'm soaking them in a jar of water for probably 1 more day, and then we're gonna try to plant these. So y'all wish me luck. I would love to have peach trees all over the property, but the coolest thing of all is her peaches were the single most delicious peach I have ever had in my life. So if I could sprout those and grow those up in 5-6 years, I will have peaches, more peaches than I know what to do with, and that is a very exciting thought. So we're gonna cross our fingers and hope that that works. One of the other things that I have already started today, I'm not finished with it yet. I'm working on it. I did have to stop and run Aiden to town. Thankfully, it's kind of like a bittersweet. I'm glad that he has his driver's license from time to time, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, it's a whole different level of praying. But anyway, so hatching this year. I have not hatched. I did not hatch last year. I have a set of hens that always go broody. I picked my oldest one. Her name is Snowy. We've had her, she's probably 7 or 8 years old now. And she's real little, but she's pretty feisty, and she loves to go broody. So last year, once she went broody, I got a little dog pen, put her some hay in there, put her in there, put her a whole stash of eggs. They only actually drink and eat very, very little during the time that they go broody. I moved her completely out of the whole chicken pen. She kept wanting to get up. Like, I got her out of, she had been in her little broody house for her little pen for forever. That's like her little space. Well, when I got her out and put her in the pen, she was like, oh no, you didn't. And she didn't want to sit down. So what I did, so here's a good tip if you ever are dealing with a broody hen, that you want to move out, because see, here's the thing. If you have more than one places for the chickens to lay, if one of the chickens comes in and gets on her nerves or whatever, she'll egg hop. She'll get out of that place and she'll go get on another set of eggs, which is very frustrating. I have tried to mark the eggs and leave them in there, but because we have so many laying boxes with so many hens coming in and out, we have gotten up to 30 eggs a day, and for our number of chickens, about 35 to 38 during midsummer. That's a pretty good amount, especially that mine are getting older now. But the thing with the hens hopping, I have marked eggs before and left her in a box, went on about my business, come back the next day, she would be off of those eggs and on another set of eggs. So I have found that does not work. So I take her and her eggs and moved them into a different place. Now, she does not like to be moved, but I found that this works. I'll leave the pen open and basically take her and make her sit down. And I stand there And if she tries to get up, I push her back down. If she tries to get up, I push her back down. I close the pen. I will stand there. She gets up, I will open it up and sit her back down. I probably did that for maybe 15 minutes last year. This was just a totally off the cuff thinking. I was like, okay, she's egg hopping in here. I need to move her out. We have done this before. And usually I could just put her in there and in a little bit of time she goes and sits back down. Well, this time I had put her in the pen, and maybe it was a couple of months before, and she wouldn't sit on the eggs. Like every time I would go up there and check on her, she'd just be walking around in there. So the time lapse, I could tell this is not going to work. So the next time I went and got some eggs and put them down and put her back in there, I just stood there and made her sit until she realized that she's going to have to sit on those eggs. I just kept setting her down, set her down, set her down. Then I closed it and would stand up, and if she would try to get up, I would push her back down. It took about 15 minutes, but it worked. So I let her hatch some last year. There's y'all another free tip. I let her hatch some last year. She hatched, I think, 8 or 9, maybe 10. A couple of them made it. A couple of them didn't. And we ended up with a handful, which was fine. We really didn't need a whole lot. I didn't really want to hatch. The year before that, I hatched a lot, but it was for somebody else. So our youngest hens are now probably 3 or 4. Because I just haven't hatched for myself in a while. So I have this whole table set up right here. This is my newest incubator that I just got from Tractor Supply, not just now. I was saying it just come from Tractor Supply, like it's nothing special. But I've had it for a couple of years. I've had these for many years, like many years, and I don't really like these at all, but they still work, so I still use them. And the reason why I don't like them, they don't hold a lot of eggs, obviously. And when you enter the lockdown phase of hatching, which is at day 19, you actually have to lift this up off of the eggs, pick the eggs up, take this out down here on this little shelf, and then lock it down. I do what's called a dry hatch here in South Mississippi because we're so humid down here. You actually don't have to add water to the incubator. Not down here, you don't. I have done it both ways before and hatched both ways before. I just personally like to not add the water. So doing what's called a dry hatch. So I have all of my incubators set up. That is the main reason I don't like this, is because it doesn't hold a lot. And you have to fiddle with the eggs on the last day, which I don't like. With this one, when the top comes off and you're ready to go in lockdown mode, the eggs are rotating on this right here, and all you have to do is literally just lift it up off of the rack, and then the eggs stay. So there's no messing with the eggs. So I have all of this set up. I needed a power cord for in here because there's no plug actually over there in that corner. Go figure. So I'm going to set up a power strip with a little extension cord and be able to plug all of these in. I am going to borrow Colby's parents. They have one just like this as well. I think you can get 28, I want to say, in here. I can only get about 9 in the other ones. So my plan is to hatch one big hatch of chicks, and that way they kind of grow up all at the same time. Right now I just want to hatch as many as I can and let them grow up all together. I need to start replacing some of my older hens, so that is really the goal. We're getting that set up right now. I will start collecting eggs today, and we will start hatching soon and very soon. And we are getting about 16 eggs out a day right now. So obviously I will not be able to fill up all of these in, and I'm still got to pick up Colby's mom and dad's. So obviously I will not be able to fill up all of these in one day. So what I do, as you can see, if you see some of the writing on the top of these, what I do is I need to clean all that off. I come in with a dry erase marker. Now, my Nurture Right 360 that I got from Tractor Supply, actually I can set a countdown timer on that. However, the rest of them I cannot, which is another negative. So what I do is put the date that I put them in, the date that 19 days from that date that they need to be moved down, and then the expected hatch date on there. So I have 3 little marks on each one of them, and I will basically just progress down. I will start filling up this one, then I'll fill up the next one, get the dates on it, then I'll fill up the next one, get the dates on it, and then progress down. So when I get ready to start moving down, I can just come in here. The first one I won't have to do, I'll move this one down, the next day I'll move this one down, and so on. What I mean down is down to the hatch rack, because you want them to rotate up until that 19th day, and then after that they're basically on lockdown. You don't touch them, you don't mess with them, you don't open them up or anything. So these I will have to mess with to move down, and they have this little rotating thing right here. This little peg sticks into this little slip, and as that spins in a circle, it pushes this back and forth, and that is how those hatch. Now I am going to go ahead and turn them all on and be letting them warm up. You see they're all flashing low because they're not warm enough yet, but I'm hoping if I'm getting about 16 to 20 eggs out a day, 1, 2, 3, about 5 days, I should have them all full, and we will be able to hatch out all of the eggs that come out of there so that I can start replacing my older hens with new hens to come up. All of the roosters that grow off will go either in the American Guinea Hog forest or the commercial breed forest, because obviously we don't want more hens than we do roosters. You only need about 1 rooster per 10 hens. About that is ideal. So we actually have 2 roosters to about 30 right now. So I'm sure my fertilization numbers will be down. And another reason I want to hatch out as much as I can, I would like to hatch out at least 30. I don't know how many we'll end up with, but all it cost me was a power strip. So you definitely can't beat that, especially, you know, I've had the incubators. They have well paid for themselves. And that was today's big thing. I needed to get all that set up so that I could start collecting eggs and start hatching, because it is that time. So I want to show y'all a couple more things before I put the camera up for today. And that was the potato beds that I told y'all that we, did. They look gorgeous. So you see the tarps right here that are down on the ground. We use these black tarps essentially to cover this bed when we're not planting. Now, grass back in this area literally takes over in the summer. So we can't really plant here in the summer. We have all these tarps down. This bed I have had for like forever, and we've come in and we've added tarps, and it is still so hard to control the grass. I actually just weeded all of that yesterday, except for one little spot that had ants in it. I was actually itching the ant bite on my finger because they got all over my hands. So I disturbed the bed. I'll come out here for several days. So a lot of people have asked how to get rid of ants. I'm glad y'all asked. Here's another free tip. Disturb the bed every day and they will eventually leave. You have to get kind of deep. I usually use a stick or a T-post driver, or, you know, whatever. In this case, I just use my boot, and I will come out here and just kick the top off, kick the top off, kick the top off. And I promise you, within 2 weeks, if you do that every day, probably way less than that, they will be gone. I just had 2 ant beds that I found in my greenhouse. One was in a bucket of rosemary and one was in a bucket of coneflowers that I had, and I would stick a stick down in there and stir it up and then soak it with water literally every day. And it took about a week ish, and they are gone now, so I'm very thankful for that. But it is not fun trying to deal with ants. Another thing you can do, obviously I have all my asparagus planted right here. I wouldn't want to take boiling water and pour on my plants, but another thing you can do if you have an ant bed in a very irritating spot, if nothing is planted, you can stick a stick in there real quick, pull it back, a huge pot of boiling water over into that ant bed kills them every time. So there's another free tip there. But we cannot plant anything over here in the summer because the grass literally just takes over. So we plant our fall stuff over here. I know we're kind of coming out of fall, but potatoes are considered a cool crop. So we will leave this area right here. And you see I kind of just left the tarps around right here on the ground to try to help battle with that grass issue. We have tarps lining this. Now, y'all have saw me weed. If you've been with me for a long time, I have weeded and weeded and weeded and weeded. This used to be strawberries, and I could not control the grass in the summer. A couple of years ago, I finally gave up, and the grass literally took over and almost choked out every single one of my strawberries. So I dug up every one of them that I had left, went on the exact opposite side of the house, and put all of the strawberries in raised beds because I cannot fight the grass. And then we tarped the thing, and you see, pulling it back, we did not have to weed one single piece of grass out of it, and the dirt is absolutely gorgeous. So the plan here really for just all of this area is to let the potatoes grow. We lined a layer of onion at the top up here. Same thing with this bed, except for it was more of a U shape. So potatoes and onions, potatoes and onions. We will harvest these in several months, and guess what? Yes, the tarp will go back over them because grass will start trying to grow back in these beds again. And as tempting as it is to plant stuff, I do not want to plant back in these beds. So as soon as the potatoes and onions come up out of these beds, we will tarp them back up. They will sit again until fall. When fall comes, I really don't mind come November, December pulling these back. We may actually do broccoli or kale or something like that in these beds if we need the space. This past year we did not, so we just left them tarp, which they really did need that extra time because it was so much grass in these areas. So that is the plan for all of this right here. These are my no-till. We do not till this. This that you see over there, the dirt is so lush and loose and absolutely rich. That was not tilled. That was just covered basically from last, I want to say we tarped that, y'all, I can't remember. I can't remember if it was spring or summer, but it stayed covered for months, and I wanted to leave it that way. Now, this is the thing I wanted to show y'all when we were talking about seeds and cold stratification and all of that. Well, shoot, y'all, I thought that the peach seed was still down there, but this is the peach tree, and there's one right beside it that I literally did not plant. Colby says we threw peaches out here. I don't remember throwing peaches out here, but nonetheless, the trees are there, and they planted themselves. So I do want to do that same principle with the peaches from the peach seeds that I got from the peaches from my friend this past early part of the summer, and I put all of those seeds in the freezer in June. The greenhouse is still kicking, and my orange tree, the kumquats in the back are also, this is the orange tree right here that produced some beautiful oranges, and I did keep those seeds this year. So y'all, just, I'm gonna cross my fingers that those things work. I know that's something I've not talked to y'all a whole lot about, is doing things cold stratification, but it does work. I told y'all that my pear trees, I did that with pears. Since I'm out here and standing right here, this is one of them right here that I literally, yes, I sprouted this from seed from a gentleman who gave us some pears a long time ago, and I got the seeds out. I thought, if his trees produce this well in our zone, I want the same variety. So I did seeds. This one was another one right here I sprouted from seeds. Like I told y'all, I'm not expecting to get much off of these for probably at least another year or two. And here's another one, all back here, just right here. That one is really, 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 really tall. But I'm not expecting fruit from them yet. They are a couple of years old, but in my experience, for trees to start fruiting really, really well, it can take anywhere from 5 to 7 years. My plum tree is probably almost 10 years old, and for the past 4 to 5 years, it has put off with more than we can keep up with, which is a huge blessing. So guys, I hope you learned something new from this video today. It is definitely always something going on here at the Max, and that's really the way we like it. Idle hands usually means trouble, and our hands are definitely never idled. There's always something to do, always something to grow, always something to learn. But we try to share those experiences with you guys so that you guys can learn along with us as we experiment, like with the cold stratification stuff that I've been doing for several years, and learning what works and doesn't work, learning to grow in your zone. Don't try to grow stuff that doesn't grow well in your zone, because chances are it's not going to pan out very well. So things like that we try to share with y'all, talking a lot about growing today because it is spring, and you know, everybody gets really excited during this time of year. I know we do for sure. But guys, thank you so much for watching and tagging along as we do all these things during the day, bring you guys along with us. Thank you for watching. As always, God bless and happy homesteading, y'all.